Welcome back. It's Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs, or should I say studious Jacob Gibbs today with the glasses on. Yeah, he's really been studying the stats, and we are going to work our way through 10 mind-blowing stats through the first 10 weeks of the fantasy football season. We're heading into week 11. We will get to some week 11 waiver wire gems, but there are a lot of different teams and offenses that we want to talk about. I love how this week, Jacob, we're going to be talking about teams that get under center and just run the ball. I mean, look, the NFL has changed. The meta of that has really shifted as teams have played a little bit more cover 3, cover 6, and different types of defenses that invite the run. Some teams have found a lot of success doing it. I can't wait to talk with you about Caleb Williams, who I got to watch on tape this week extensively. What a evolution in his game that we've seen this year. But there's a lot to get to, Jacob. Where do you want to start today?
So we're doing the show a little bit early. It's no live show, unfortunately, but that is
They won't know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, there will be no live chat interaction.
Yeah, they might know.
Yeah, because I'm going to OKC today, so I want to start there. Between now and the next time I see you, Dan, I'm going to drive like 10 or 11 hours because I'm going to Oklahoma City to watch Stephen Curry. And
Let's go.
my brother is adopted from Taiwan, and when he came over here, like he couldn't say hardly anything, but you know what he could say? Steph Curry's so good, LeBron's so bad.
I love that.
I know, it was epic.
He came over as a LeBron hater? That's unreal.
Yes.
It's unreal, literally.
One of the biggest haters, and that story is just so freaking funny. And so we've never been able to see Steph live because we live in the Midwest.
Right.
And so we're making it happen. But Steph Curry is questionable with an illness. He's missed the past 2 games with an illness. So wanted to shout that out because I know
Steph, get over the illness. We're all sick at this time of the year.
Exactly.
Steph, fight through it. Fight through it. Let me see. He's set to return Tuesday versus Thunder. Set to return 1 hour ago. Warriors wire. Are they reliable? I hope so.
Expected to play. It's OKC, right? Okay. You got to show up for that game.
Yeah.
So really excited for that. But yeah, also excited for the show. We've got a lot to get into. Run the ball. Heck yeah. Get under center. All the good, football guy stuff. Got some cool ways to illustrate that and how that's working in the NFL. But the first stat I wanted to start with, actually, this is a bit of a change up. I buried it at the bottom of the show sheet because I thought maybe you wouldn't get to it. It was a long show sheet, but you did. I saw you tweeting about it. So I'm just going to start with it because we have to take our Jaxson Dart victory laps any opportunity that we get. And there have been a lot of opportunity. Among receivers with 200 or more routes, only Brandon Cooks, still kicking, only Brandon Cooks and Darius Slayton have a worse route win rate than Wan'Dale Robinson. So you might recognize 2 of the New York Giants starting wide receivers there in the bottom 3 in route win rate. I will say that Malik Neighbors has a surprisingly low win rate as well. So I do think that this stat says something about the offensive design.
Yeah.
But all the same, Jaxson Dart is the one who's playing within that design with these receivers. And man, it is just so freaking impressive what this rookie has done, what he continues to do, hopefully. We'll see how the rest of this year goes with the coaching change. But just wanted to point that out. We've gone through every single possible way of illustrating like how awesome he is. And I think people mostly have enjoyed that. And then some of the people in the chat like to give us a hard time about it. But isn't that a crazy stat, man? Is your mind blown?
It's pretty mind-blowing. Look, he's gone through a lot this year. As I watch the tape, I see a lot of these situations where it's second or third and long, and there really isn't anything created from what's designed by the offense. Essentially, no one's open, and Jaxson Dart has to break pocket, get out of structure, and make a play, which he usually does with his arm. Does a great job of keeping eyes downfield. That's where he's really been the most impressive. But there were also 2 examples last week against the Bears that really had me excited, Jacob, where he hit the backside dig twice, once to Wan'Dale, once to Slayton. When you're throwing backside digs as a rookie, from a processing standpoint, it is everything Dan Schneier wants to see when he's evaluating the film. And I will say this, I'll ask you this before we move on from Dart. We look at this first year for him, and I don't know what will happen now. He has a concussion. We'll go through the protocol. We'll see what happens. Mike Kafka's now the head coach. I'm excited to see what kind of stamp he puts on the offense. Maybe we can get Wan'Dale Robinson and Darius Slayton to rise from like a dead last in route win rate to like mid-pack or something like that. But when we look back at it and we think about, going into last week, he was 3rd most fantasy points per game at the quarterback position since he took over. And what we thought about Drake May from his first season, because a lot of people have drawn parallels to Drake May's first season last year with the Patriots and the team that was around him and the lacking talent to what Jaxson Dart is doing right now with the Giants. We came into this year, Jacob, like, buy Drake May everywhere. This is the glaring, obvious value at quarterback. I feel like the same thing's probably just going to happen next year for Dart, right? Like, no one's going to rank him inside their top 10, right? There's too many quarterbacks, and it'll pretty much be history repeating itself in the fantasy space.
I think there's a good chance that he'll be pretty hyped up just because he scored so many points with his legs, you know? May, it was like the scramble rates and all that. The underlying stuff was there, and there was this hope that he would get more design running. But there's a lot of kind of nerdy stuff, whereas Dart is just like, look at these points, baby. You know, like he's getting rushing touchdowns all the time, you know? So I would expect him to be hyped up. The return of league neighbors. We'll see how this offseason goes for the Giants. I mean, if they bring in Click Kubiak or something like that,
right,
I would expect him to be pretty hyped up. Honestly, I bet it'll go off the board as like QB7 or QB8.
Okay,
which still might be a value if he can stay healthy and run a lot.
It might just be, and people will say this, and it's a good point on Dart moving forward. The running won't be what it was this rookie season ever again, to an extent. But if you watch Dart run the ball, like if you see his second touchdown, which was Bash, the Giants just ran Bash 3 or 4 times against the Bears, and it worked every time. But if they just, like, when you see him run Bash, the creativity he has as a runner, there's no coach that takes over the Giants is going to limit him. Of course, you don't want him getting hurt. But this is not going to be a situation where they just completely take running out of his repertoire, because he ran a wing tee offense in high school, really learned how to run the football, and runs with crazy levels of patience, tempoing, like things you see from a running back as a quarterback. The touchdown run, the second one he had against the Bears, he did an unbelievable job in the hole, making a like stanky leg right hard cut that brought in the safety number 9 from the Bears and forced him to break contain from the outside to kind of go inside and try to get Dart. And then he just cut it outside for the run, for the touchdown. So awesome stuff to watch. I'm excited about the stats. I'm excited about the Giants getting better receivers for him next year.
Don't hear stanky leg much these days.
Yeah, I had to bring it back.
All right, a lot of exciting stuff there. Did just want to start with the Dart stat for fun, but
Jacob knows how to hype me up at the beginning.
We have 9 more mind-blowing stats. You ready to keep moving?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, stat number 2. I'm going to share my screen here. This is, I've got a bunch of stats that go along with this one. The general sentiment is just get under center, run the ball. Every NFL offense that is ranked top 10 in explosive play percentage, so the percentage of their total offensive plays that are gaining 20 or more yards, also ranks outside of the top 12 in both first down pass rate and shotgun rate. And so I thought you would, in particular, would love this stat. You're somebody who's a big proponent for, running from under center, gets a little bit irritated with some of these shotgun running systems. And so this backs it up, right? Look, you can see here the blue underlines for first down pass rate and for shotgun rate. And then the red color coding indicates like teams that are in the bottom third of the league. The Seahawks, the Rams, the Ravens, the Bears, the Bills, these are the teams creating the most explosive plays. So I'm just going to leave that up on the screen for anybody watching on YouTube, and then talk through a few like ways to classify these offenses. So the first one is offenses that are getting explosives, that are high in these explosive rates, but are not high in success rate. Again, for anybody who's unfamiliar with success rate, it's like getting at least half of the distance required on first or second down, and on third or fourth down, gaining a first down. That's how they qualify successes. And so I wanted to talk through the Patriots, the Bears, and the Seahawks. These offenses are creating explosive. The Seahawks are number 1 in explosive play rate. The Bears are number 4, and the Patriots are number 6. But for one reason or another, their success rates are mid at this point. I'll start with the Patriots. They're 16th in success rate overall. They're 9th in passing success rate, but they're 29th in rushing success rate. So even this past week, when we got the huge Travion game, it was really on the back of just like 2-3 chunk plays. Right. Other than that, there was a lot of plays that got nothing at all. And I think that's kind of been an issue for this offense all year. The offensive line has performed better than expected, but is not. I wouldn't think of them as a good run blocking unit. I think that's been pretty apparent when you watch the Patriots film. I've watched a ton of Travion film, and there's just been nowhere to go on a lot of the runs. There've been a lot of plays where he expects somebody to get to their assignment and they don't, and then he just kind of left getting stuffed. So I wanted to bring that up. Like, this offense is playing extremely well. But if they don't get the run game going more successfully, it is like leaving a lot on the plate of Drake May to create these explosive plays. And he's done it, of course. We know that he can do it. But it does leave me a little bit dubious that this can be the type of team that can like topple somebody in the playoffs. And maybe even a team that might give us some disappointing games if this success rate thing leads to more 3-and-outs, they get behind the 8 ball. So did you have any thoughts on the Pats with that data?
Yeah, it's interesting. I want to look into at some point what they're trying to do in the run game from a blocking scheme standpoint. I haven't seen it. I know traditionally Josh McDaniels' offense, you can expect a lot of power gap concepts. I also know if you're running a lot of power gap concepts with a newish offensive line, they do have 2 rookie starters on that offensive line. It could take some time to gel. Also, at the same time, I don't necessarily view like some of their talent, like Will Campbell, for example, great pick by them. He's done a great job protecting Drake May on the blind side. I don't view him as a plus run blocker, and I have to take a look into that to confirm if that's been true or not. But they may just simply not have the talent up front to create in the run game. And that's something that, yeah, you can do schematically as an offense, and we've seen it like earlier this season with Liam Cohen, but that falls off if your offensive line isn't playing at a high level. Part of the reason why Ben Johnson and the Bears, who are on this list, are so successful at doing this is because they're blocking really well on the interior. I just watched it. I mean, they're a really, really well coordinated team. That is one of the best offenses, just schematically speaking, that I've seen this entire season. It is actually the best offense I've seen play the Giants this entire season. So I don't know if necessarily the Patriots at that level from the run game standpoint. I don't know if they're going to get there from the run game. And I think that's an interesting point you make about just like, could this lead to some regression from the offense? But then on the flip side of that, it's like Drake May. Am I going to predict regression for a quarterback like that who just is that phenomenal and seems to come up with those big throws whenever they need them? It's tough. You would think like from the offenses on this list, Jacob, I would say I'm least confident. I would probably say I'm least confident in the Patriots among all of them, besides maybe the Chargers because of their tackle situation.
Yeah. I did look it up, and it's mostly man gap running, especially for Travion. 63% of his runs have been man gap runs. I think that like if they could get the run game going, that could be something that takes this offense to another level. So maybe if Travion does emerge as a better player there, but I think he is mostly like the explosive plays is kind of where he's at this point in his career. I think the vision has always kind of been a question, and so he might have more stuffs. Let's transition to the Bears. So they are third in explosive plays, explosive play rate, ahead of the Patriots. 15th in success rate, also ahead of the Patriots. 26th in pass success rate, 6th in rush success rate. They're second in rush success rate on running back runs. This offensive line has just crushed in the run game, and it feels like it keeps getting better. We've seen really successful plays, drives, an entire like month strung together recently, I feel like, from both Monangai and DeAndre Swift with different types of runs for both of those guys. You, of course, watched the film against the Giants. Did you have anything you wanted to expound on with the Bears?
Definitely a lot to talk about with the Bears. I know we have it. I don't want to jump the gun. I know we're going to talk at some point about Caleb, correct? So should I save any of that? I have a lot on Caleb. As far as just saving that and going just strictly to the run game, it has been awesome to watch how Ben Johnson designs a run game with this kind of talent on the offensive line. There were question marks, moving over from Detroit to Chicago. Like, wow, Ben Johnson, he loses Penei Sewell. He loses, at the time, Frank Ragnow, who retired for the Lions, but was the best center in football. Is he going to be able to do the things he did schematically, or was that talent based? I think we learned he's still able to do those things. There still needs to be talent, though, up front. And that interior offensive line is playing super well for the Bears. And they made huge investments into rebuilding that line. I think all three positions on the interior this offseason with high-end players. So it's coming together. I personally think we're now, 10 weeks into the season. They're hitting their stride as a unit up front in the run game. And that's a really exciting thing to see. But when you watch the tape of Ben Johnson offense, having seen it just this past week, there's so many examples of him doing what I think is what defines the best play callers in the NFL, Jacob. And this is much easier to do, by the way, when you're under center. Just drawing it back to what we're talking about now with teams that go under center and aren't always in the gun. You'll see this with McVay all the time. It's simply just marrying the pass and run game. That's what it's all about. Making your run plays look like pass plays, your pass plays look like run plays, and coming out in similar formations and personnel and being willing to run out of them or pass out of them at any point. And by going under center, you give yourself a much better chance of doing that, of actually marrying the run and pass game. So I feel watching them when they hit play action, there's so many open receivers, so much more than watching any team in the NFL. They run similar concepts to a lot of teams, just with deep overs or like, a scissors route on one side of the field. But it seems to work and get open for the Chicago Bears. So they're blocking well up front, they're playing in tune, and they're marrying the run and pass game. The offense looks really good.
Hell yeah. Another team doing that exact thing, maybe at a higher level. Seattle Seahawks.
Yes.
First in explosive play rate. 8.8% of their plays have resulted in 20 or more yards. The next highest is the Rams at 7.3%. 25% of the plays have gained 10 or more yards. That's also the highest in the league. This team is really, really leaning on, under center running. They're bringing out all these huge packages and kind of dictating what defenses have to do. And we're seeing all these explosive plays down the field as a result to Jaxson Smith-Njigba, to Torrey Horton, probably to Rashid Shaheed coming up. Overall, they're 14th in success rate, 5th in pass success rate, and 17th in rush success rate. So I brought this up multiple times. I do feel like it's possible that the run game is going to come along. And if that does, this offense is going to be so hard to stop and is going to be so good for fantasy purposes. Because even if the Jaxson Smith-Njigba stuff has to drop off a little bit from this ridiculous 4.7 yard per route run rate, I don't think it's going to drop off to a point where he's not still one of the 5 best fantasy receivers. I think he will still be. And then you also maybe have some deep shots to Shaheed that you can plug in as a flex play. And then you also maybe can use some of these running backs because I think this offense is just going to keep scoring points, man. They're Clint Kubiak is on something right now. He's ahead of defenses. And this Rams game that's coming up is so interesting. Max Toscano, who's on the Thursday pod last week, we did a deep dive on the Seahawks. That's the one where he's like, this is the game I've got my eye on. Is I wonder if we'll finally see a defense adjust to what they've been doing. Because so far, none of the defensive coordinators have been willing to. They are just you're not going to run for 200 yards on us. You remember, dude, this preseason when we watched them against the Chiefs, it was holy crap, this is teach tape. This is against the Chiefs starting defense. And they're just running all over them, 8, 12, 15 yards every single play, pre-snap motion. Everything is in sync. And the Chiefs had no answer for it at all, starting offense versus starting defense. And I think that Max pointed to that too, that I think a lot of Clint Kubiak, the Kubiak name, the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet, there's a lot of, and then also the personnel packages they're trotting out there. There's a lot of indications that this is going to be a power running team, and defenses don't want to have that done to them. They don't want to be the team that gives up 250 yards on the ground. And so the result is we've seen all this play action stuff working extremely well. So I'm really, really interested to see how this develops going forward.
Yeah, they've done the best job of selling the run while actually using it to dominate on play action. And part of that is they have one of the best, I guess we could call him at this point, one of the best route winners in the NFL, right? He's not viewed in that regard right now by most NFL fans, Jefferson, among the Justin Jefferson types of the NFL. But there's really no reason not to at this point with JSN. And in addition to that, the biggest factor here, this is one of, let's be clear about this, Jacob. This is arguably, if not the worst read I had of my entire preseason fantasy analysis, the Seattle Seahawks. And I leaned heavily on 2 things here in my, I guess we could call it incorrect take, or just in my being scared of the Seattle Seahawks. It was their offensive line first and foremost. And it was a lot of what I saw last season from the Seahawks. And they've just made such a dramatic shift. And no offense, but this is such a bad look for Ryan Grubb. Watching this team go from that. And it's not just that, though. Obviously,
it's an entirely different team, too.
It's an entirely different thing. And I also feel part of it is just, it sucks to say, but Geno Smith's fall off at the NFL level and whatever he was doing last year with the Seahawks versus what Sam Darnold's doing, which is the total opposite of what even I expected. I thought there would be a drop off if the offensive line fell off for him, and that offensive line hasn't fallen off. And I think the key reason, Jacob, is what you said. When you're a team like the Seahawks and you're getting in these 12 personnel packages, these heavy, and you're really selling the run, not just in the sense of you're running the ball a lot, but you're selling the run in the sense of you're making it seem like you're going to run the football. And like you said, you have a reputation of running the football, and you have a difficult run scheme to stop. That's part of it too. Kubiak, it's not, his reputation is for a reason. In the past, he's been in spots where he's really run, he's had blocking schemes and run schemes that are difficult to stop. Well, it's just going to set up play action opportunities. And Sam Darnold has been absolutely elite at diagnosing where the space is post snap and putting the ball in great spots. So I am intrigued by the statement of will we see the shift? Like, will we see at some point defenses start to look to play the Seahawks for the pass and that opening up things in the run game? And that's just exciting. It's still, I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, Jacob, I'm still just like looking at this situation like, Walker, when can I trust him? He's never in the red zone, right? Like, so it's like, it still seems like it's going to be difficult to predict, but it could really be a benefactor for both of those players.
Yeah, you'll get my answer for that on tomorrow's podcast. Going to do rest of season rankings. I worked on that last night, and Walker was one of the toughest ones to sort out. That back end RB2 range is really weird. So like, where does he land? Where does Trayvon Henderson? Where's RJ Harvey go? I'll give you guys the answers to all that tomorrow, but we do need to hit our first break. After that, we'll be right back. I'm going to talk about the Colts, the Bills, and the Rams, as well as the 49ers offenses. Some really interesting offenses that could be, the units that deliver some of these league winners down the stretch. But we'll get our first break here from our sponsor, and we'll be right back. All right, before we get to these offenses, Dan, I want to just real quick end the Sam Darnold note with this. He's somebody we've been looking, me and my brother do Dynasty together, and we've been looking at trading for Sam Darnold as like a contending piece that also might just be a little bit undervalued as like a long-term piece. We've seen the Baker Mayfields, and like if you would have bought Baker Mayfield at the beginning, that would have been a very good buy, because here we are 3 years later, and he's still like really highly valuable for fantasy, very productive. Darnold, I think, is only 28 years old. And, obviously the offense is helping him. If Clint Kubiak were to leave, that would suck. But also, like, he's elevated his game. He's playing within this structure, but he is also making some plays outside of it. And the accuracy is nuts, like too legit, like absolutely the best in the league. No one's even been close in terms of accuracy down the field. So do you have any thoughts on Darnold? I have you come around at all? I want to ask you now, use this time, because you were one of the like staunchest Darnold disbelievers, but now like, is that still lingering for you? Would you still be hesitant to buy him long term? Do you think this is mostly just the system? Or do you think like this type of accuracy, now that we've seen it, not just with Kevin O'Connell, like with two different systems, him look like he can be the elite talent that he was, drafted as?
No, I've come fully around at this point. Let me be clear about something, though. It will be dependent, and I can't see any reason why at any point in Seattle's tenure with Sam Darnold, even if Kubiak does go on to take the Giants head coaching job or another head coaching job, they would go away from this. But it is contingent on Sam Darnold remaining in a Shanahan tree offense. I really believe that's the difference. Shanahan, O'Connell, Kubiak. It's going to this coaching tree because, and I heard that somebody break this down earlier this offseason. It's the way that they teach football to the quarterback position. It's the way they teach how they read out the plays. And, earlier in Sam Darnold's career, he wasn't in these systems and he wasn't reading the defense well. We always knew. I mean, I was a big believer in Sam Darnold in the 2018 draft from a talent standpoint. And we always knew when it came to Sam Darnold, he had the arm talent. He had the ridiculous quick release. He had the ability to throw off script, throw off platform, rolling left, rolling right. Doesn't have to have his feet set or shoulder squared. It just didn't seem to be a situation where he could process defenses at an NFL level. Well, now he's proven that he can. This is not just Kubiak scheming him open first reads. I'm watching him work 1, 2, 3 from his progression and finding solutions that he just never used to find. And that's the biggest factor for me. It's the processing from him. It's the feel and the fit in the Shanahan, Kubiak, Kevin O'Connell tree. It's how he reads the defense out. I just think it's going to get better, right? Like, you're going to have Shaheed in here delivering big, deep shots for them. You still have Horton developing for them long-term for Sam Darnold, right? Like, he's just on the roster. Kupp, whatever, he's a rental, and then Shea Ascend. So he has a really good chance in my mind to, if they decide to re-sign Shaheed, which they might because they have the cap space to do it, he has a chance to have 3 really good weapons, a fine offensive line, and as long as they just figure out, if Kubiak leaves, a coach that can come from that tree that they believe in, I think Darnold will be fine. So I like the idea of trading for him in Dynasty, honestly.
I think I might buy him in at least one league, as if the price isn't too exorbitant, just as like a hedge, because I have so much Jalen Milroe.
Yeah, wow.
And so you know what I'm saying? Like, if Milroe never gets on the field, that probably means that Darnold is playing at a really high level.
The one thing for his fantasy game, I will say before we move on, I would like to see him run more because he
Right.
can. And I have seen it in the past, and it just does not seem to be a part of this offense at all.
Yeah, doesn't need to.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back to this discussion wrap up here. So I gave you the offenses that are creating explosives, but not necessarily doing it with consistency on a down-to-down basis. The offenses, the best offenses, basically the ones that are doing both elite explosives and elite success rate, are the Colts, the Bills, and the Rams. So the Colts are the unique one here among the offenses. You'll see that they're not on the screen. They're not quite top 10 in explosive plays. And they use shotgun more than the rest of these offenses. They're one of the few shotgun leaning offenses, just barely above league average, well above league average in neutral situations. The Rams are the opposite end, 39% shotgun rate for the Rams. That's last in the league. We're seeing them use a lot more like 3 tight end sets this year. Sean McVay in the first year without Cooper Kupp is getting pretty creative. That's been fun. So yeah, man, this Colts team just nuts. What we've seen, we've talked about it all year. Alec Pierce, like we've got some stats on him later. There's so many good fantasy players from this offense. This is like what the Rams have been year over year, where you get multiple good fantasy players. The Bills, not quite so much, but this does all set up really well for James Cook. And then I think Josh Allen like gets a big boost from how good this freaking run game is. It was interesting talking with Max. He outlined the Bills as one of the teams that, even though they do run out jumbo sets a lot, that teams still kind of play the pass for them, which is just such a testament to Josh Allen, right? Like this is one of the best run games in the league. They have the highest first down run rate of any team, and they're using multiple tight ends all the time. And still they don't get a ton of heavy boxes. Even though
no one is going to simply adjust to what the Bills are doing. Like even if they run the ball at an insane rate, like no one cares. They're just, we have to play Josh Allen top down, and
they don't even have like a clear elite burner or anything like that. It's just wild. I feel like most of it, like 99 times out of 100, personnel is what dictates the way defenses play. But then there are the one, which is like Mahomes, Josh Allen, so that is
because like if you did, like the assumption is, I think at least from a defensive standpoint, I don't even know if this is a correct assumption, but the assumption is if you did change the way you played Josh Allen and played them to their new tendencies under Joe Brady and what they've done with James Cook, would we just get back to seeing like Dable ball with Josh Allen, which is essentially like he's in the gun, he's hitting his back foot, he's letting the pass rush come to him, and he's just ripping intermediate shots and ripping deep shots. That's the assumption. And no defense wants to be burned that way. They'd rather just give you the run, because so many things can go wrong in the run game. Even if you have an advantage in the box as an offense, it doesn't matter. You can still have a defensive lineman make penetration and make a stop in the backfield. Like, it's so different than like in the pass game where like if you're pressing up on a quarterback like this, he will just continue to burn you. But I think, Jacob, and this is a larger conversation for another day, so I just want to put a pin in this real quick. Based on some of the numbers we went over this offseason when it came to Josh Allen, off to his target rates and his accuracy rates on all the levels, I'm not sure this is that necessary, especially when you brought up what you did before, which is they don't really have any weapons to really be scared of in the pass game. But that's a larger conversation for another day, because I know NFL defenses don't care. They're just simply not going to let Allen win that way.
Yeah, no, his accuracy hasn't been that good down the field. It's kind of like Mahomes, and recently he's not even doing it that much. But this all sets up really well for James Cook. Surprisingly disappointing game against Miami, but I do think he's somebody who can crush down the stretch. I mean, you saw the weeks before that he piled up 330 yards in 2 games on the ground. So yeah, still feel good about our boy James Cook. All right, the last offense I want to talk about was the San Francisco 49ers. A really weird offense here. We just don't have anything else like this in the NFL. This is an offense that it is getting chunk plays and has an elite success rate, but is completely lacking explosive plays. So it's like we can get 10, but we ain't getting 20 ever. They're 30th in explosive play rate in terms of 20 plus yards, but they're 4th in the percentage of the plays that gain 10 or more yards, which is really hard to do.
Interesting.
So shout out CMC.
Just grinding the pass game out
for real, just like grinding, but like not ever get. I think his long run, maybe he got one this past week, but it was before that. It was 19 yards, which is crazy.
He can't block.
So 7th in success rate overall, 4th in passing success rate. Shout out Mac Jones.
Yep.
22nd in rush success rate. They have not been able to block And the pass game has kind of operated as the run game, right? Like it's just been a bunch of really quick targets, a lot of it going to CMC by design. Did you have anything on the Niners? We finally got the George Kittle breakout game.
Yep.
So you love to hear that after Dan went and dug into the film last week. Did you have anything on the Niners? Are you ready to move on to Caleb Williams?
Let's talk Caleb Williams. I mean, I do think like the Niners are an intriguing team for fantasy because so much is going to change with Purdy, with Pearsall, with potentially Ayuk coming back. But we've kind of covered where that could go. And I think we need to watch that develop because it will honestly, those explosive plays will come back, I think, with those players in the field, but I don't want to guarantee it just yet. Let's talk Caleb, though, because there's a lot to say there.
Yeah, that was my thought is like, what if we get explosive plays?
Right.
You know, what if Purdy, Pearsall, maybe Ayuk, Kittle, what if these guys start to give the explosive plays that haven't been there? What does this offense look like? I feel like it could be one of the best offenses in the league. All right.
Yeah.
We've seen it, you know, I definitely think it could be if people are healthy. Here's my crazy stat on Caleb Williams.
Yep.
He is QB3 in sack to pressure ratio. This is the percentage of pressures where the quarterback took a sack. It's an important real life stat. It's been fairly predictive of like longevity, the quarterback position, and it's also been fairly predictive. One of the more predictive stats that we have of future fantasy scoring. Caleb Williams is averaging over 20 fantasy points per game this year, one of 8 quarterbacks to do that. It's been a much better season here in year 2. Obviously, Ben Johnson is such a huge part of this. If you look at the quarterbacks of the top 3 in sack to pressure ratio, it's him, Bo Nix, and Jordan Love. I don't think of any of them as elite pocket navigators necessarily. Caleb has the athleticism to be that. I think that coaching really helps those guys. That by design, they're doing a lot of things to alleviate for pressure and get the ball out quickly and stuff like that. I think that makes sense to me that it's LaFleur, it's Sean Payton, and it's Ben Johnson designing things that helps this stat look even better. But still, so much of this credit has to go to Caleb. And so these stats are really the mind-blowing ones. In year 1, 88% of Caleb Williams' games, he took multiple sacks. This year, it's down to 44%. He had 5 or more sacks in 6 out of 17 games last year, which is so crazy. His high number this year is 4. I think he only has 1 game with 4 sacks. So 0 out of 9 games so far has he taken 5 or more sacks compared to 6 out of 17 last year. You watched some Caleb Williams film. What'd you think?
Yeah, so we've actually done a good job of watching a lot of Caleb and the Bears this year. We think we did a game or 2 earlier this year, and then obviously this week I got to see him against the Giants. I'll say this, like, first of all, what we're seeing is unprecedented. I think Scott Barrett was tweeting about it, but you just don't see quarterbacks with the sack to pressure or the pressure to sack ratio they had or sack pressure ratio they had in year 1 being as bad as it was, take this kind of jump in year 2. And I think a lot of people, Jacob, will just automatically credit Ben Johnson for this. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Ben Johnson deserves a lot of the credit. There are definitely moments last year where I'm sure if I went back and watched the tape, I'd see him taking sacks on plays where, you know, I don't want to get back into our hatred of the past offensive coordinator of the Bears, but I do believe he's one of the worst to ever do it. But at least that I've seen. But like there's just easy solutions that Ben Johnson designs off play action where there is a read, it's wide open, and Williams can hit it. But that's like a small percentage of what I saw, Jacob, when I went back and watched the tape against the Giants. The largest percentage, like by far, was Caleb Williams individually avoiding sacks. Nick and I, my co-host for Big Blue Banter, every time we do our film reviews, we assign a 1 through 10 grade on the Giants pass rush. And this week, it was so difficult to assign a grade because as we watched the tape, we were like, these pass rushers are winning over and over and over again. And somehow, some way, Caleb Williams is avoiding sacks. It was like a magician. It was honestly like watching a magician play out there. This was the best sack avoidance I've seen against the Giants pass rush this entire season from any quarterback. He was getting in. First of all, it was how he manipulated the pocket, but it was also how he just escaped these tight situations that were collapsing on him that should be sacks, and he finds a way out of it. Then there's also other stuff like the dig route he threw to Roma Dunze in the second half, the little like intermediate 18-yard rip. He does a great job on that of getting into the top of his drop, seeing the pass rush come up the arc, and just the subtle step through, right? He's doing a much better job manipulating the pocket as well when he's throwing from within the pocket. But that doesn't even speak to the magic. The magic is how he's getting out of sacks, escaping the pocket, and then making plays on the run. I think he individually has taken such a huge step he's still Caleb Williams. Like he's still, and what I mean by that, Jacob, is there's still frustrating moments for me when I watch his tape. A lot of it is based on just he doesn't. In my mind, he doesn't see the field as well as some of the other best quarterbacks in the NFL, and he's starting to position himself in that discussion. And I don't want to say in that discussion, but like he's a young player, he could start to move toward that trajectory. He still doesn't see things from a post-app standpoint processing as well as I would like. Open reads I see on film that he's just not throwing to or just not noticing. And he still throws such a flat drive ball. Like it's great in some spots. Like they're running a lot of dig routes in that offense. Like then what I mean by that is just for people to know it's like an intermediate in breaking route. And he could rip that in. And you want a flat throw there. But on some of the outbreakers and some of the stuff outside the numbers and the deep plays, you don't really want a flat drive throw. You want some air under, you want some touch and trajectory. So there's still frustrating moments, but as far as avoiding sacks, he's really taken an insane jump when you look at his tape from the first year.
All right, good stuff. I love to hear that you back that up. I know I was curious what you'd think because you watched a full game. Like I see the highlight avoidance plays, right, where he's doing the magician stuff, and it's like, well, I always knew he had that in his bag, right? Like if you watch Caleb, you know that he has that. To me, it's more about like the down to down tendencies, the spazziness, for lack of a better word, like the, you know what I'm saying? Like the kind of the panicky stuff that happens where it's like, okay,
didn't feel like he had much of that in this
we're not
game.
processing anymore. Like we're just like in this kind of crazy reactive place. I feel like if he can get where he's not stuck in that place as much and he's able to stay in that processing place, oh my gosh, the tools are insane.
Yeah.
Like there's very few nits to pick beyond like maybe the trajectory on the ball and stuff that you highlighted there. So that's cool. I mean, QB3 in this sack to pressure ratio is absolutely wild stuff for where he was last year. The only thing that he's even reminiscent for me is like Josh Allen had a crazy increase from his rookie year going forward. But really, this is a pretty sticky stat, even from college to the pros and then into the career. You don't see a huge change in this stat very often.
Jaden went down a bunch too from his last year at LSU. He took a lot of sacks and like in his first year with Washington. But we're seeing a little bit of regression there.
You're saying that Jaden's number is better this year than it was last year?
No, his rookie year. For his last year at LSU, he took a lot of sacks, had a bad sack. It was one of the things I'm
pretty sure it was still not that good last year.
But it might not have been that good.
I would have to double check.
It might not.
One more stat real quick here, and then we're going to hit our second break.
One quick short note.
Good.
Because it's a player that we've loved and we've talked about and we've been waiting for. I don't know when it will happen. I don't know if it will happen this year, but Luther Burden will happen, Jacob. He is. He looked really good on tape. I watched isolated some of his routes. He is a player at the NFL level, and he's going to be exciting at some point. So let's just put a pin in that. If he's on your waiver wire, I'd even stash him at this point. There's potential. We need an injury, I think, and I don't want to say that. I'm not rooting for an injury, but it would take an injury at this point, even though Zaccheaus just drops 4 amazing passes in one game and still gets snaps. Like the drops that Zaccheaus had one of the worst games I've seen from a wide receiver in a long time. But I don't know when that will happen. I just wanted to make that note, though, because he looked good.
Yeah, I've got a stat later that'll shout out Luther Burden. Definitely not going to get out of here without mentioning him because he is maybe like one of the most undervalued players in fantasy right now. We don't know if it will happen. But in terms of upside for what you can get him for, I mean, he might be on waiver wires in some leagues still. Like, and he's going to be somebody you can throw in as a trade in other leagues. Not everybody. Some people have been waiting on him, but I think you can get him pretty cheap. And he could.
And again, like it might happen this week because Zaccheaus had a really bad game, dude.
I think it's more about DJ Moore. I think
maybe
they've used him more on the perimeter, which I think is great for his long-term ceiling. I think that slot role is going to belong to Loveland long-term, if I had to guess. Okay, so the last stat before we hit our break here, the Seattle Seahawks. This is sorted by the percentage of plays where a team has been leading, 67% for the Seahawks. The Colts are the only other team at 60%. Only 11% of the plays have the Seahawks been playing from behind. So they're dead last in dropbacks. They're dead last in the percentage of plays where they've been trailing. That's a pretty historically unprecedented number. I went back and looked, dating back to 2000 through the first 10 weeks of a season. So that's, how many teams is it? 798 individual seasons. Only 7 teams have had a lower rate than the Seahawks. So we're looking at truly a 99th percentile outcome here.
Wow.
I think that means that it has to regress, right? Like we're almost definitely going to see more neutral scripts going forward for them. But also, like, is this just the best freaking team in the league? Is the question I want to ask. Like, the defense is a absolute buzzsaw. Like,
Right.
they're just making mincemeat of every team that runs
Yeah.
into them right now. And then the offense is just like locked in, man. Like, so everything looks so easy.
Yeah.
Everything is on time. I'm like, the only thing not working perfectly basically for this offense right now is the run game, and the right guard is a problem. But like, other than that, everything looks so good. So just wanted to give you that because that is a crazy stat.
It's the most
For,
mind-blowing stat of this entire. They've only trailed 11.4% of their dropbacks this year.
and they're getting better. They're getting more and more cohesive. Like, really, it's all coming together where they're just like obliterating teams right now.
Yeah,
This Rams
two
game,
back-to-back obliteration games.
this Rams game, man. This
The Rams
Rams game
game's
is so
the best
exciting.
game on the slate, best game we've had in a while. Those are the two best teams in the NFC besides the Eagles, I guess.
All right, we got 6 more stats, but first, one more word from our sponsors.
Critics agree Landman is a hit.
We roll the dice one last time.
Men die. Oil companies don't.
Stat number 5, Javonte Williams. We haven't talked about Javonte Williams in a minute. The Dallas Cowboys offense hasn't looked quite as good lately. The blocking has weirdly not been so good for Javonte. That's the stat. He has gained 80% of his rushing yards after contact over the past month. That's a really high number. And so what I've got here, I'm going to share on the screen. It's a lot of words. I'll start here. I underlined, this is, you can see it's week by week. If you see that on the left, with week 9 at the top, week 1 at the bottom. So you can kind of see how it's trended as the season has gone along. I underlined in blue any game where he had to gain 70 or more, 70 or higher, 70% of his total rushing yards after contact. 5 of those games, with another one coming close. Zach Charbonnet is the next highest in the league at 4. I couldn't find anybody else who had more than 3 of these games. So this is like, it's weird because I think that the Cowboys line could be really good. At the beginning of the year, they were playing really well. I definitely don't think of this as a line that should be a problem. So maybe this has something to do with the way Javonte runs, but I feel like he's pretty quick to get north-south, honestly. So I would guess that this will improve, that the line will play better. I mean, they're not dealing with any outstanding injuries or anything that I could find. Let me know if I'm missing something there.
I was just looking through it. I feel like they're getting healthier. It looks like they have Eby and Booker back.
In gray, I underlined the games where he had like basically just 1 yard before contact blocked. So that's again 5 different games this year out of 9. And so, yeah, this was interesting to me because we've highlighted like how good this offense can be and how good Javonte can be, and it's just like really impressive to me that he's still been producing even with this. So he's first in the league by a wide margin in yards after contact per rush per the Fantasy Points data suite. It's Javonte at 3.6, then Bijan Robinson at 3.04, Rico Dowdle and James Cook at 2.9, Jonathan Taylor at 2.85 yards after contact per rush. So he's really played phenomenally. At the beginning of the year, it was like, he's in this great system, great circumstances and everything. But the more the year went along, the more and more film you and I watch, we're like, okay, this is really good. Like, he's really playing well. It's a different type of player than he was early in his career, where we're really excited about all the avoided tackle rates and stuff like that. But man, he's doing great. And couldn't he just be, I mean, pretty early on, you were like, why isn't he just the top 12, top 5, top 8 running back somewhere in there? And that's basically where he's arrived, even with the circumstances not boosting him lately. So I wanted to point that out because I think all this is pretty interesting. Javonte Williams, 80% of his rushing yards after contact over the past month.
And we saw in the last season with the Cowboys, his first season taking over play calling, Brian Schottenheimer last season, different circumstances, obviously no Dak, but like he leaned so heavily in the second half of the season on the run game. And I feel like their run scheme and their entire run game together I'm sorry, their entire run game as a whole, I should say, came together in the second half. So I wouldn't rule that out with the Cowboys either, because they are getting healthier on the offensive line. They've dealt with a lot of injuries there. As I look forward, and like some of the that game script against the Cardinals was really weird, I felt like, on that Monday Night Football game. And as we look forward, there are some good matchups. There are some bad ones. There's some stuff that scares me here, like the Chiefs matchup. I don't love that. The Chargers matchup, I don't love that. I feel like from my experience watching the All-22 this year, I was going to say, not Minter. Yeah, Minter, Jesse Minter's defense is probably the most gap sound I've seen in the run game of any defense. The way they gapped out against the Steelers was awesome to watch, and they did the same thing against the Giants earlier this year. So I have some matchups that scare me, but then there's also some really good ones on there. He's got the Commanders in the Fantasy Championship week. He's got the Raiders coming up. So I'm still super high on Javonte rest of the season.
Me too. All right. Somebody who we are not so high on. Nobody seems to be high on these days. I want to give you some Bill Croskey-Merritt propaganda. See if we can maybe get back on the wagon here.
Okay.
So I said Javonte has gained 80% of his rushing yards after contact over the past month. Number 2 in that stat over the past month is Bill Croskey-Merritt. That might surprise you because it seems like he's gained no yards, but he actually has. And they've basically all been after contact. 75% of his yards gained over the past month have been after contact. I've got an interesting stat for you here. You watched a little bit of Bill film, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This week's game against the Lions.
I'm curious to hear from you. So this stat is on runs with at least 1 yard before initial contact. The success rate for these running backs, 9 running backs have a success rate above 75% on these runs. This is over the course of the full season. So number 1 is J.K. Dobbins at 82%. Number 2 is Ashton Jeanty at 81%. Number 3 is Bill at 80%, tied with Kyron Williams. The rest of the running backs on this list are Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, Derrick Henry, Bijan Robinson, and Kamani Vidal. Shout out Vidal. He's played really well. So these are running backs. When there's something blocked, how successful are you at, picking up first downs and whatnot? Shout out Bill. That stat is maybe just cope, maybe just a very specific stat that I, pulled up just to make me feel better about Bill. But still, like, I think it does speak to the fact that when I dig into his data, like, he's getting way less yards blocked than the other running backs in his backfield lately. And I'm curious what you think after watching it, because when I've watched it, I felt like Chris Rodriguez and even McNichols are like hitting it harder than Bill, and I felt a little bit disappointed in Bill. But I'm wondering if this is my own bias, because I've been so excited for Bill all along the way, and now I just like want him to succeed, so that's like bleeding into how I'm able to watch it, wondering if I'm being too hard on Bill here. What do you think?
I actually felt like this was, and I haven't seen Bill in a few weeks before watching this cut up. I felt like he was more decisive than I'd seen him in this game. Now, the thing is, he only had 2 touches in the first half. The next one came in the third quarter. Don't love that at all for his profile. And then racked up a few more touches in garbage time.
Well, they went to Chris Rodriguez as like the starter, kind of like an energy injection. They made him the captain, but then he got hurt.
Right. Which could lead to more touches for Bill, or just like out of necessity. They're going to have to play Bill. I definitely felt like there was one run he had, a 6-yarder in the first half, where he really did a good job, I thought, of just getting downhill and being decisive. But they have issues, man. Like this Kubiak scheme. I mean, not Kubiak. This Kingsbury scheme without Jaden Daniels. Like, I came around on Kingsbury. I had to eat my crow and apologize last year. And now I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I watched it.
It's so predictable, man. I feel like it's so predictable that this was going to go this way.
Like, this is how it's gone for Kingsbury in his coaching career, at least with the Cardinals. Now, I still think, again, if Jaden was healthy, we could be talking about a totally different situation, but he's not. And I don't know if he'll play again this season, but we have to expect Mariota for at least the next 3 games. So it's just, I don't have much faith in the offense or the offensive line or the scheme. It's hard for me to buy into Bill. I do think he was running a little bit more decisively, but like that's really all I can tell you on that front.
All right, that's good to hear, because I haven't watched his Week 10 film. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
No.
So I've got a couple more stats. The Commanders have played with a lead on just 0.6% of their plays over the past month. So that's a big part of this, and maybe it won't change, with Mariota.
You say 0.6?
Yeah, so like probably one play or something. I don't like.
It's unreal.
It is. 78% of their plays have been trailing.
Oh my God.
during that time. The next highest is the Titans at 66%. The Saints and the Falcons are the only other teams that have been trailing on 60% or more of their plays over the past month, 78% for the Commanders. So the game script couldn't be worse. And that does affect Bill for sure. They take him off the field on third downs. I will say, like, the Commanders have the league's highest run rate when trailing. So, like, I think they want to stay committed to it, especially with the quarterback situation, the receiver situation.
Right.
And so what I'm thinking is, like, I'm looking at the schedule. They get Miami this week, and then they have their bye. And then they have 2 more games where I think it could be competitive because these offenses just, I don't know what to expect from them. It's the Vikings and the Giants. So they get the Broncos out of the bye, and then they get the Vikings and the Giants, and they have the Eagles and the Cowboys. To me, the only game in there that feels like a 7+ point type of spread where they're going to be massive underdogs is probably the Eagles, maybe the Broncos or the Cowboys. Both those games are in Washington. So I'm thinking, like, maybe we could scrounge up some Bill Hope here, where if we get more neutral game environments, they lean on him a little bit more. Maybe he just isn't as bad as it seemed. That's what the stats suggest. And that's why I wanted to bring my boy Dan in to see what he thought. Because I've been discouraged. And then I did look yards before contact per running back run for some of these opponents. You've got the Dolphins at 19th, and then the Broncos at 4th, and then the Vikings at 11th, the Giants at 32nd, the Eagles surprisingly at 22nd, but I think that defense is going to be better to close out the year, and then the Cowboys at 28th. So there are some games, that defense could be better too, though. There are some games where maybe it could be better, but this is all clearly Cope. So if that helps you, you're welcome. Let's move on to our next stat. Sorry, Bill guys and girls. Anybody who's on the Bill train with us, I know it has been pretty rough, but maybe you get some flex starts down the stretch. Stat number 7, Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce's ranks. This has become an Alec Pierce podcast.
He's so good.
I never would have guessed that, but it has been fun. Alec Pierce, his ranks among 50 receivers with 200 or more routes this season. Where do you think Alec Pierce ranks in route win rate per the Fantasy Points data suite? Route win rate.
Well, in my opinion, it's got to be high because I'm literally watching him run isolated boundary routes with no safety help over the top on most of them. So,
wide receiver 5. Did you say 4th highest?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. You about nailed that. That's insane.
Almost nailed it. He's in
wide receiver 5. There are some very good wide receivers in the NFL.
I saw the players listed. Yeah, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah. Wide receiver 5 in route win rate, wide receiver 12 in yards per route run. I think it's interesting to compare him and George Pickens as two, down the field winners.
Yeah.
Pickens is a better yards after the catch guy. But if only comparing their like route win rates, targets per route run, yards per route run, they look nearly identical. Pierce is averaging 2.36 yards per route run on a 21% target per route run rate compared to 2.34 for Pickens, also on a 21% target per route run rate. So really kind of similar there. And then I've got some crazy stats to show you on screen here. Again, a lot of words. I'm so sorry. I did some digging and can't really find anything like what we're getting from Pierce in terms of route depth and average depth of target. So route depth is the distance from the line of scrimmage where the initial cut in the route occurred. PFF tracks this. There's like nothing like him. If you look at other players with similar route depths, any players even close to him? He has the highest route depth in the league this year, by the way, among qualified receivers, highest of like 70 guys or whatever. Any players even close to him have like tiny target rates. He's got a 21% target per route run rate. Like that's a healthy target rate for somebody who has like a normal average depth of target. It's a crazy target rate for somebody who's getting so many down the field looks. It's by far the highest rate of anybody to occupy this type of role during the time I have the route depth data available, which dates back to 2017. And what's so crazy about this is that, he only has 1 touchdown while getting all these downfield looks. And I know it's Daniel Jones, but he has been at least like league average accuracy is I think where he settled in on these downfield throws. So I dug into the red zone target rates. They're very low for Pierce, which is kind of surprising for such a big guy. But they've just got other directions that they go. And this has been his whole career, actually, not just this year. I think it's like Michael Pittman has been the guy in the red zone.
And Taylor.
Of course, yeah. But that I'm talking about target share.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, why doesn't he have more touchdowns? Just because, like, by nature, these downfield targets normally result in broken plays, bigger, touchdowns, yardage after catch opportunities and stuff like that. He had 7 touchdowns last year in a worse offense,
Right.
with worse downfield accuracy and all that. Here's for comparison. I filtered out only players who had an average depth of target of 16 or more yards, which, by the way, here, this is another absolutely mind-blowing stat. Every single game, Alec Pierce has had an average depth of target of at least 16 yards this year. That's so crazy, dude. Like,
it is.
Normally ADOT fluctuates pretty wildly.
Yeah.
You might have a game where you only have 4 targets and like 2 of them were digs, so you're not going to be at 16 every single game. 16. And I had to go with 16 as minimum here because nobody's at this 20 mark where he is. If you look, it's sorted by first down per route run rate. So it's like players who are getting downfield targets, but are actually also part of the functional offense, Sammy Watkins in 2015 and Ted Ginn Jr. in 2015. You got Deshaun Jackson in 2018. These are the only things. It's really hard to find comparable players because we just haven't had anything like this. 9 touchdowns for Sammy Watkins, 10 touchdowns for Ted Ginn Jr. Alec Pierce has 1. Again, he had 7 last year in a much worse offense. To me, either like this is all going to regress. He's going to stop seeing so many targets and first downs because there's never been anything like this. And I don't think he's just like the best deep threat of all time. Or this can keep working this way because all of the circumstantial stuff supporting it in the offense makes sense. Like you have to, what Jonathan Taylor is doing to opponents is terrifying right now. And so you have to play the run game, but then that opens up all the play action stuff. And like Alec Pierce directly benefits from that. And there's other pieces of the offense to worry about too, between Warren and Downs and Pittman and everything. And so he keeps getting these one-on-one looks. And so as long as the quarterback play doesn't completely fall off the cliff, this is sustainable, in which case you almost have to see more touchdowns, which we finally did see in week 10.
Interesting. I would lean toward, if it's me, I'm leaning toward the latter there.
Yeah.
As crazy as it
I
sounds.
think it makes sense. The schedule doesn't set up super great for it.
There's a lot of dome games though left. He just needs to be in a dome, Jones. He needs weather.
I guess what I mean is the defense that he plays, I hold respect for. I don't think that they're likely to just be having like blown plays and stuff like that. But that can happen to any defense. I mean, the Chiefs are one of the upcoming defenses. They've had that at times,
you're saying from a touchdown standpoint?
Right. Like it's for me, I would rather it be against leaky defenses like the freaking Dolphins or something like that. But I do think touchdown and long plays can be kind of random. And if anything, it might just be better that they are in domes. They might be in shootouts, stuff like that. Really, really interesting player. I remember we did a deep dive on him 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we're like, everything looks really good. I would love to have him on like dynasty best ball teams, but I don't know if you're ever going to be able to start him. But now it's like, it feels like you can start it. Things keep. Part of it has been there've been a lot of really good matchups where it's like single high safety matchups, like the Falcons. They do that more than any team in the league.
Right.
But also it's just like he's a real part of the offense, and they traded away AD Mitchell. Like he keeps being part of the offense.
I think you're right. Some of it again is, are they facing the right teams that are going to play middle field close? But I think a lot of it is because I looked at that list. It's so funny looking at the players on there. There's Ted Ginn. There's some of these just sprint players, right? Like the teams that had offense coordinators that just use them to clear out and sprint. And in those offenses, those guys were running clear out sprint routes on the boundary against a safety over the top. The difference here is like schematically speaking, from what I've seen on the tape, and I haven't watched this week's game, but from when we did our deep dive a couple of weeks ago on Pierce, the Colts and Steichen have set up the offense so well schematically that like Pierce has all of these boundary looks and they're to the field side. So essentially it's like teams are going to have to decide from a spatial standpoint, are we going to allocate a safety over the top against Alec Pierce? What will that do to our ability to fit the run against an offense like this one? And it's unlike any other offense this year. The Bills have blocked the run well, and they've ran well. You can name a few other teams. No one is running the football like the Indianapolis Colts. No one's running it anywhere close to what the Indianapolis Colts are doing. So if you want to fit the run, you're going to have to either A, get an advantage in the box as a defense with one extra guy versus how many they have blockers, or just be so gapped out with your safeties that like you're never going to be able to allocate resources to Alec Pierce. So like, and then like you see like defenses, like I'm surprised teams don't play press man against Alec Pierce at this point. But I'm assuming they feel like he'll beat press man, and that gives them a worse chance of him, or, better chance of him beating them over the top, and worse for the defense. So they're just playing off coverage, and he's just running 3 routes. It's just deep curl, it's vert, or it's that little outbreaking route. And at this point, I don't know who has a solution for this at all, unless you want to redefine how you defend their run game. And I don't think that you have the capability of doing it. The interesting thing is, we were talking earlier about this with the Bills offense. I almost feel like kudos to Joe Brady. It's worked there. Things have been great. They're fine on offense. I feel like everything Steichen has done with this Colts offense is exactly what the Bills should be doing with their offense. Just having that field side isolated boundary receiver. Maybe they just don't trust Coleman to win
right.
like Alec Pierce wins. And that's probably what it is. But
that's why I was like, who is that? Josh Palmer, but he's hurt.
No, and he's not good enough to do it either, I don't think, personally. But so yeah, it's really interesting. I'm banking on this Pierce thing continuing to roll, because I don't think defense is going to all of a sudden start to allocate resources away from stopping Jonathan Taylor and toward stopping Alec Pierce.
On that Bills note, you provided me an excellent segue, Dan, to Jaylen Waddle. Yard per route run leaders without Tyreek Hill on the field in 2025. Of course, Jaxson Smith-Njigba, 4.67. Puka Nacua, 3.44. Jaylen Waddle, number 3, 186 routes without Tyreek Hill this year, 2.96 yards per route run. If you look at, qualified players, the next highest is Drake London and Amon-Ra St. Brown and CeeDee Lamb in that 2.4 to 2.5 range. We're talking about a 3 yard per route run rate for Jaylen Waddle here. 14% first down per route run rate. That's approaching Puka Nacua levels. That's above Amon-Ra St. Brown. That is insane stuff. And yes, this was the Luther Burden shout out. Only 81 routes for Luther Burden. But so basically, Luther Burden has run the same amount of routes as Rashee Rice this year, and he's averaging 2.74 yards per route run compared to 2.59 for Rice. This is why first down per route run rate is important, though. You see his first down per route run rate is half of Rice's. Yard per route run can get inflated by a few plays. But man, when Luther's been out there, they've been intentional about getting the ball, and I think he's looked really, really good. So this is as exciting as it gets to see a yard per run rate that's been around 2-3 yards all year long for this rookie. But we'll need to see how it translates over a larger sample size. I wouldn't expect him to be doing this, but the upside is huge. But yeah, I want to talk about Waddle, man. Freaking every single game except for the Browns game where the Dolphins just got completely shut down. We saw Quinn Ewers in that game, to add 100 yards in that game. Other than that, Waddle has at least 80 yards in 5 of 6 games. He's been consistent. And I watched his film for this past week. I watched every single route, and he's nasty, man. I watched, we know that, obviously.
Nasty.
We know he's one of the best movers in the league. But I watched Chris Olave every single route with Tyler Shuck, and then I watched Waddle every route from week 10 because Olave had the big game.
Can I get a quick segue from, or this is not the right word for it, but give me a quick take on, because I haven't gotten a chance to watch and I really want to know, how did Tyler Shuck look?
Yeah, that's
people say it wasn't bad.
Yeah, I will say I was watching specifically for Olave, but of course I was curious about Shuck too. Their offense is just strange. They everything is hand holding on the guardrails. It feels like there's not a whole lot of straight drop back and diagnose type of stuff for Shuck. I don't feel like he made a couple cool plays where he avoided and improv'd in the pocket and found Juwan Johnson and stuff like that for big plays. The downfield shot to Olave was great.
Yeah.
I thought generally speaking, he did a pretty good job of doing what they wanted him to do and just operating the Kellen Moore's design on time. The routes are weird. That's what watching Olave was strange. You probably noticed Cooks had one of the lowest route win rates. Another one that stood out to me is Olave's rates in terms of the fantasy point status charting have been low all year, which is weird because I think of him as one of the best route runners in the league, honestly. And every time I've watched the Saints this year, their route design, I don't know enough for sure to say specifically exactly what I'm watching, but it feels like the route designs are so often designed to be specific zone beaters, where it's we're going to something specific. I think that I'm ahead of the defense here, Kellen Moore, the play designer and caller, and I'm calling something specifically to beat this. And so he's using a lot of motion and stuff. And I think that we're kind of diagnosing what we are going to see pre-snap. And then if we feel good about the play, then we're running this to get specific players in space against this type of zone or whatever. And as a part of that, a lot of the times, Olave or whoever it is just clearing space.
Mm-hmm.
They're really not even running a route that is designed to like get a target, is what it looks like to me. And so I do think that affects the rates a little bit here in terms of this accuracy charting and stuff like that, or not accuracy, separation charting. So that's what I would say about
Gotcha.
that, and just Shuck in general. Like I have a very hard time bringing anything from an evaluation standpoint after watching Shuck in this game.
Okay. That's fair.
Other than there were a few cool plays, right? Where it's like, okay, there's some interesting traits here. But anyway, watching Olave and then watching Waddle, it just felt like it was like supercharged when I turned on the Waddle film. It was crazy, man. Like the Olave stuff was good. Like he's a good player, of course. But even on some of his big plays this week, it was like he had to make a contested catch, or he had to shove the guy off on the downfield target and stuff like that. Waddle's getting like wide the F open all the time, dude. Like that's
So
to
good
me
in and out of his cuts.
I definitely have. I know that I have a bias towards this type of a player where it's just like they can just shred, they could just absolutely torch and get wide open and then get yak. Because like I think Olave is probably a lot better at some of the refinement stuff in terms of like at the catch point and stuff like that than Waddle, who per like Matt Harmon and reception perception and also just watching, he hasn't really transformed his game a whole lot as he's gone along. Waddle, it's just that like he's a really, really high level player, and he kind of always has been from the jump. But yeah, to see him step into this role without Tyreek Hill and continue to dominate is really, really exciting. Like I updated my rest of season rankings. Again, we'll get into that on the Wednesday Beyond the Box Score podcast. I'm pretty sure I had him at wide receiver 9 or something like that. I've moved him up a lot. I've had some trepidation about doing that because it's like, I'm nervous that the bottom is going to fall out on this offense, right? And then there's also injury risk, but he looks as healthy as I've seen him. And the offense, just beat the Bills, and it feels like we can ride this out at this point with McDaniel and Tua at least to the end of the year. They've got Washington in week 11, then they hit their bye, and then they have the Saints and the Jets and the Steelers and the Bengals. Before getting the Bucks in week 17. And to me, it's like they could win any of those games. They probably won't win on the road against Pittsburgh. They probably won't beat the Bucks, but any of those other games, and all of them really could be competitive, right? And that's all we're looking for, is like if we can just keep it from being just an abject disaster like it sometimes turns into with Tua and Mike McDaniel, then I think Waddle is safe. And if we can get anything like this, man, this is huge for fantasy, what he's been delivering.
I'm with you on that. I got to watch some of the routes you posted and you cut up. He just looks so good getting in out of his breaks, and that schedule is really setting up well. The Jets depleted defense completely after the trades. The Bengals and the Washington Commanders. Those are some of the best games we're going to have. Plus, even, if you look at the Bucks game end of year in the fantasy championship, it's not the best matchup per se, but it's in Miami. And I care about that, man. Watching that Eagles Packers game last night, I was like, yep, this is that time of the year where fantasy football teams are ruined by playing in Lambeau Field, like playing in some of these cold weather games where like no one wants to throw the football. No one wants to catch the football, and the offense just stagnates.
That's huge for sure.
Really
I feel like that happens every year where it's like you've got a great player that was locked in all year, and then they get like 3 points in this random weather game.
Like how? Right. And the matchup's okay. Like nothing's wrong, but it's like, oh, it's like 12 degrees out and no one wants to throw the football.
Yeah. All right. Stat number 9. Tez Johnson and Justin Jefferson have an identical fantasy point per route run rate.
Wow, the haters in the comments from yesterday on Beyond the Box Score killing me for my Justin Jefferson doubting. You're going to have to listen to this one.
Tez Johnson, Justin Jefferson, same fantasy point per route run rate, 0.40. So here, fantasy point per route run is inflated by touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
And Tez hasn't run that many routes, 172. He has 4 touchdowns to Justin Jefferson's 2. The stat is a bit facetious. We're having fun here. I hope that's okay.
Of course.
Here's the range. If you want a more, reliable stat, here's the range that Tez Johnson falls into in terms of first down per route run rate. Not bad, right? I mean, Jordan Addison, like Juju, say what you want about Juju, but he's been an important chain mover for the Chiefs. Wan'Dale Robinson's the number 1 receiver for the Giants. Trey Tucker's the number 1 receiver for his team. Deebo Samuel's the number 1 receiver for his team. He's above all of those guys. Like he's been a solid contributor. He has 40 or more yards in every single game, 5 straight games since becoming a full-time player. 40 or more yards, and he has some big play upside. So I did want to shout out Tez Johnson. Like his per route data in terms of targets, first downs, and yards per route run is basically identical to like Brian Thomas Jr. and Parker Washington, who are like kind of the wide receiver ones for the Jaguars. It's a really good offense. I think it's pretty impressive that he's done this. Actually, his target rate is much lower than those guys, but the actual production is pretty much identical. I think it's really impressive that he's done this as the clear second receiver in his offense.
Yeah,
and we love him. We love him on film. Like, we've done a few deep dives on him. Like, he's really, really fun.
I was going to say, I haven't gotten a chance to watch his tape from this week, but everything we'd done before it, I was just so impressed with the speed that he plays at. He plays at a speed that he did not test at in a good way.
For sure. Okay, we've arrived at our final stat here. The Detroit Lions did not go 3 and out on a single drive for the first time all season in Dan Campbell's first game calling plays. Their rate had spiked from 21% 3 and out rate under Ben Johnson to 34% with John Morton calling plays. So that's a big change. That's going from like one of the best in the league to like league average. And I do think that is kind of what was bothering Dan Campbell, was kind of the herky-jerkiness of the offense a little bit. Play to play, drive to drive, even week to week, like that he wanted to get a little bit more control, get this thing reined in a little bit. And so to right away not have a single 3 and out, it was against the Washington Commanders, but that definitely looks good for old Dan. I dug into the specifics and didn't find anything that was way different. The running back usage was split pretty much evenly from the get-go early on in terms of playing time. It was even maybe a little bit more David Montgomery than we had seen, which wouldn't really surprise me. Dan loves him, but there was a lot of stuff designed to get Jahmyr Gibbs the ball. And of course he had the huge game. Personnel looked basically the same, slightly more motion, first down run rate, all that was basically the same. I think it mostly like it's probably a difference in sequencing. Like maybe Dan feels like he is better at sequencing these plays together in a more cohesive way. But I'm definitely curious to hear what you thought. I think the clear fantasy standout was Jameson Williams got more involved, but even like the first 3 target rates from Fantasy Points data didn't suggest that there was some like huge change or anything like that. It was better than it had been, but it wasn't like sometimes they clearly force the ball to JMO. And that's not what I saw from the data, at least, but you watched the film. What'd you think?
Yeah, the first thing I have written in my notes, like from this game tape, in all caps, is play sequencing. I really thought Dan Campbell did a fantastic job of that against the Washington Commanders. Caveat being, yes, it is the Commanders. The defense is absolutely broken. But, you could just see it right from the start. He had a plan in mind, and he executed it. The first play of the game, he brings in Skipper as an extra eligible lineman, or an extra eligible receiver, I should say. And they just run inside duo. It's like a 7-yard run for Gibbs. 3 more plays pass by, and finally Skipper gets brought back into the game. And the next time they have Skipper in the game, it's a play action shot play. And this is just exactly what I mean by sequencing the plays and marrying the run and pass game. Like, you have to work on the tendencies of the opposing defensive coordinator and what he assumes your tendencies are going to be. If you bring in Skipper as an eligible receiver, you're expecting run, and you're just going to get a coordinator or a play caller at this point in Campbell who's going to mix it up. And I saw that all game. Like, he did a great job, I thought, of on the first touchdown of getting Amon-Ra St. Brown coming in motion left to right, and then just getting, or not the first touchdown, the one that should have been a touchdown. He just missed Amon-Ra St. Brown on. Like, just a really good play design to have him running, starting left to right motion as like that fast one to the side where there were no receivers, and just run a rail route up the sideline. It's just easy play. The Texas route to Gibbs in the red zone for the touchdown, that was awesome. I think teams should call Texas angle route way more often, but clearly, like, not every running back can create the separation on it that Gibbs is able to. But you do have Gibbs on this offense, so like, let's do that more often. I saw him in empty 5 wide. I thought he did a great job of using Jameson Williams as like the isolated backside boundary receiver, because that helped him. Like, he had an easy 3rd down solution with Jameson where he just created a good amount of separation on a deep curl. If you have Jameson Williams as your isolated boundary, like, it's a very difficult stop for the defense. They either have to play press man on him or maybe put a safety over top. They can't really allocate those resources. This offense has too many awesome players. Thought they did a great job just using Gibbs as like an extension of the run game as well. Some of this is like good vertical attacking concepts. Khalif Raymond looked good in this game to me, and I thought they used him well. And as far as the Jameson Williams things go, they just use him on a lot of like just those over routes and those crossing routes, which is probably a good idea. Like, get him going. There was one they had later in the game where They had a 2-man route combination on the left side, Jameson Williams motioning into the slot from the right, running one of those over routes, those crossing routes. And then they ran a 2-man vertical concept on the left, just cleared out so much space for JMO. And like, that's what you should be doing as an offensive play designer. So I thought overall he did a great job clearing out space for players like Jameson Williams, using Gibbs as an extension of the run game and as a weapon on like that angle Texas route, and just marrying the run in the pass game. I thought it was phenomenal. Again, it was the Commanders though. Like I want to see one more game of this before I'm like all in on it. But that offense looked phenomenal.
Love all of that. Big Madden guy, I have to assume, Dan, with the Texas route call out.
I love the Texas route. I've never really gotten into Madden. So
really?
I'll say this. I never
football guy.
I know I'm a huge football guy. I forgot. I've never talked to you about this, Jacob. This is a tangent we don't have time for today, but
we're done, buddy. Let's talk about community.
Yeah, but you have things you got to do today, more important places to be. But we'll talk about this real quick because listeners, sickos of this podcast may know about this. And if they do, please let us know in the comments. There is a game for football freaks like us. And yes, I'm using the word freak. It is 1,000 times better than playing Madden, where you could just spam dumb things and hit the slot. And like, by the way, when I used to play Madden, which was in college with my friend, I think I averaged more pick sixes thrown than any player who's ever played Madden. I just couldn't figure it out, just throwing pick sixes left and right. But there is a game called Stratomatic. Have you heard of it? It's a board game.
No.
You've never heard of Stratomatic?
No.
Look it up after this, Jacob. I am telling you this right now. At some point in our lifetimes, I will meet you somewhere and we will play Stratomatic. It is the most realistic version of football ever. It is a board game where you are the play caller on both sides of the ball. You have a play sheet and you call plays. And on one side of the ball, the defensive team, the players on defense, has 11 pieces, and you can move your 11 pieces into different areas, like your linebackers into zones, your linebackers up on the line of scrimmage. As Emma's saying, as producer Emma is saying in the comments, it's basically football chess, but then it's also with a dice, which brings the element of luck and fun of dice. Like if you're a dice guy like me. And so now you're rolling dice and like you have a different outcome based on like how you, so like if you set it up to like, if you're blitzing me, I have to roll dice for that. Like I could take sacks. It's unbelievable. Stratomatic football. Look it up. But I don't know why I went on this tangent.
It's not right in my Q zone, is it?
It is right in your Q zone.
It's also in Dan's Q zone.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Wow. That's crazy.
And listeners of the show, I guarantee you, it's an old school game. My dad taught me it, and then I played it with a friend of mine whose dad taught him it. But I bet some listeners of our show will have heard of Stratomatic football. More people should be playing the board, and I have the board game right in that other. I'm excited to play this with anyone who's willing to play it with me.
All right, I got to book a flight. Yeah, I'm looking this up, and this is hilarious. It looks, just like incredibly nerdy and detailed.
So nerdy. It's so nerdy.
Yeah. But yeah, that's why I say right in my Q zone, baby. I love board games and obviously love football. So
just to bury myself even further real quick in the nerd zone that I don't care to bury, that I'm okay burying myself in. There was one time in my life where I was like waiting 3 months to go to like abroad. Like I was studying abroad and there was like a 3-month period off. And me and my friend created a Stratomatic league where we drafted fantasy teams and we kept stats. We actually kept stats, like completion percentage. It was unbelievable.
I love this so much.
It was so nerdy and yet so amazing. It's the closest thing to real football ever. Like you're in 4th and 2 spots where you need to punt, like you're playing field position, like everything matters. And you're guessing pass or run against them and then setting up your defense to try to stop what they're doing. It's so fun. But anyway, this show's not about that. Where are we going to, let's end it on something fantasy related. What's the last thing we're going to say here? Just bylines.
No, I got nothing fantasy related. Okay. I think these are 10. I think the people's minds are appropriately blown. Dan, I've watched like 10 or 15 episodes of Community per your recommendation.
Okay.
I thought you'd be happy to hear that.
Thoughts?
Who do you think is my favorite character so far?
I'm going to guess Abed.
Yep, you nailed it.
Yep. I knew it would be Abed.
Yeah, it's fun.
So
it's fun. It's kind of
gotten to.
It's insane. It's an insane show. Like what some of the stuff that they choose to do with, Chevy Chase's character and different angles they take where they just do not care. It's been fun.
You have to at some point get to season 2, episode 19. It's the single best Abed episode. I don't want to spoil anything. It's the best Abed episode. Season 2, episode 19, Critical Film Studies. But yeah.
I'll get there. Have you watched is it Atlanta? Is that Danny Glover's show?
Every single episode. I love Atlanta.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. After watching this, I'm like, I need to watch Atlanta.
Very different show though. I don't know where
Yeah.
I guess because of I see why, because of Troy. Yeah, because of Danny, because of Glover. But I'll say this: Atlanta's an entirely different show, so don't expect any kind of comedy in that show.
Yeah, that's right. I just want to watch him. Like
Dark and amazing.
Yeah, he's a good enough actor.
Yeah,
from what I've seen. Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening to Big. Wow.
Get some
Beyond
sleep,
the
brother.
Box Score. No sleep. Monday into Tuesday is the least sleep zone for me. Thank you for listening to Beyond the Box Score. We really appreciate your support. Apologize for a little tangent at the end. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you've heard of Stratomatic Football and Community, the TV show. Please hit the like button right now. Please help us grow this show. We need you to hit the like button every time you listen. I actually did a bad job. I should have asked for this at the beginning of the show. When I'm live, I do a better job of it. Hit the like button. Leave comments after the fact. That helps us build through the algorithm. Hype the show. There's a new hype button on YouTube. We like that too. And something we have promised but not done a great job of, but we will continue to do a better job of, is read your Spotify and iTunes comments. So if you leave us a 5-star review and rating, we will read those. So
yeah, we can get to that tomorrow.
We'll get to that on Wednesday. So we will actually get to that. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and we will talk to you soon.